in the night, your heart fills with dread. Probably a murderer who wants you dead. It could be a ghost, a demon, or worse. Perhaps you're the victim of a witch's curse. It's hopeless, you're doomed. You'd call a priest if you could. You'd rather just listen to who? Sinisterhood. Hello and welcome to Freaky Friday, where we tell your odd but true stories. It's Friday, November 17th, and if you're in the United States, it's the last Friday before Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to one and all.
To those who celebrate. I love my husband goes, I don't really care. He's like, I'll eat the food. I'll see people, but nah, it doesn't.
I mean, isn't that what it is? That's all I've ever thought it was. Is
and football. I'm like,
parade,
you don't care.
Football, and green bean casserole. Those are the things that I celebrate, and my friends and family, of course, on Thanksgiving. But yeah, the story behind the whole thing is the big crock of shit. So
yeah, it's all a crock. But
we're all done with that one, right?
Yeah, it's all. We have all realized that's fake. But my mom makes a mean pea salad, and that's what I look forward to every year. So girl, I'm stoked about a pea salad.
I love me a pea salad. I am the only one that likes it, so I get the whole bowl set right next to me, and I am not complaining about that.
I love that. That's what my mom was listing off what she was making. And she's like, pea salad, because I know you love it and it's gluten-free. I was like, thank you. And deviled eggs. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to make my pies. I've got my pie stuff in there. I'm the pumpkin pie provider in our family. So I'm no pressure.
PPP.
Yeah, the PPP. No pressure on the PPP, but it's fun. I like to do it every year. It's the one time a year I use the KitchenAid stand mixer I inherited from my aunt. So
nice.
She was the pie maker, and then when she passed away, it's now become my stand mixer, and so the tradition continues. But
through her, the pies live on.
It is, but it's never a bad time to be reminded to be grateful. So we're thankful for all of y'all for listening and sharing the show with your friends and everything. Thank you.
And I'm especially thankful for macaroni and cheese.
Oh, yes.
Which Tommy will be making. Ella requested him to make that. I think he made some great mashed potatoes last night. Ooh. That he said were way more difficult than he anticipated, but they were so good. So maybe he'll make those too. I don't really make anything. I'll be honest. Sometimes I'll put a pie together, but for the most part, I just like to enjoy.
Honestly, it was a mistake, me doing this. Not really a mistake. It started because when my aunt was older, she had a degenerative disease. So as it progressed, she couldn't make them. So I would come over and help her. So it became this lovely, fun thing we did together. And so now I just have to do it.
Now you got to do it.
Now I'm the default, but it at least helps me think of her. But if it were not for my darling Aunt Darlene, may she rest in peace, I would not be in charge of pies. But I'm happy to be the torchbearer. You've got the right idea. Because it's the time to sit around. So hopefully if you're listening, you get some time to relax. If you work in retail, God bless you. If you work in any kind of retail restaurant, something that's open on Thanksgiving or Black Friday, bless your sweet, sweet soul, because that is a nightmare. And if you're going somewhere on Thanksgiving or Black Friday, don't be an asshole. Don't just be so nice. Be the nicest and the most patient, because my God, they have to work those days.
Be extra nice. For the first time ever in my life, I went to Starbucks earlier, and the person in front of me paid for our car. Ironically, I just read an article last night about how baristas hate when people do this because it is very confusing for them to figure out whose order is who and everything. And this person said, as a former barista, instead of doing that, tip the people. Yes. And so that's what we did. So the barista already seemed stressed. And I heard Tommy was like, the guy in front of us just said he wants to pay for our car. And then the barista said, it's $32. Are you sure? And the man still did it, which thank you so much, sir. If you're listening to this, that's the thing. They drive off and then I'm like, but I want to say thank you. But that is a true selfless act to do something without receiving that thanks. So we paid it forward by giving this stressed out barista the money that we would have paid for our drinks and let their operating system get back to normal.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And then everyone I've told is like, oh yeah. They all hate when people do that. I didn't know that. So I'm glad I know that now.
Yeah, my mom was a former Starbucks barista, and two of my friends, and we're like, yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, it just causes logistical issues. Paris's best friend was at the car inspection place, and he went up to pay, and the car inspection man's like, the person before you paid it forward and paid for your car inspection, which is a set statutory rate of $25. And John was like, what? And he said, was there anybody else I can pay for? And they said, no, you're like the last customer. And so he's like, I don't know if I just got scammed or if I guess I just got a free inspection. So he went and found a different way to pay it forward, I'm sure. But like you said, we all can, if we're there we're able to be consumers at these places. Let's just pay the employees because they're not getting paid very well. So let's just pay it forward that way.
But it was very nice.
It's
and
very sweet.
And Ella was like, why did that man pay for us? And so then I got to explain to her, like, it's a thoughtful thing to do. And especially during the holidays, people like to do things like that for strangers. She is currently out using some allotted money for the food drive for her school. And she's at Target picking out what items she wants to use with the money that we've given her. So I'm excited to see what she comes back with, because she wanted to come back with cupcakes. And I had to say, that's great. Everybody loves cupcakes. I think maybe we need to do some things that don't expire as quickly. Some canned food, some dry goods. So maybe she'll get the ingredients for cupcakes.
So yeah, a sweet treat, but something that can last for a minute. But that's so sweet that they teach them that at school of like finding ways to give back to your community and have a food pantry.
They do. Her school is wonderful. And I wish that it went through high school, because this is her last year there, and we're going to miss it. But then Simon will be there, so we get to still stick around for a while longer. But all that to say, we're very thankful for all of the things in our lives, especially you, and to everyone that sent in their stories today, and to our guests that you'll get to hear from at the end of today's episode, who we had a lovely time talking to.
Oh, I get excited about all of our guests, but this is the first TikToker that we have on here. And when you meet Jonathan, when we introduce you later, you're going to find out he's so much more. But it's just a face and a voice that we came to love on TikTok. And we're like, is it so crazy to ask him on Freaky Friday? Absolutely not. It was phenomenal. We loved every
he was
second
great.
He's so good.
He's so nice too.
So Latinos Against Spooky Shit, if you have not followed that TikTok account, follow it, and you'll meet him at the end of the show. But right now, we have some odd but true tales sent in by you.
Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get freaky. This first one sent in from Tanya, and it is called Never Take a Dead End Road. Hey, ladies, love the podcast, and thank you for creating a safe space to share these stories. Let's get into it. This happened in November of 2020 when I was in my early 30s. My hobby is wildlife photography, and there's nothing I love more than grabbing my dog and my camera and heading to a quiet, natural area to see what I can find, with a murder podcast, often Sinisterhood, on for company. Only one earbud in, of course. I know the rules. The pandemic was still very much front and center back then, so these outings felt like even more of an escape. This time of year in Alberta can be quite cold, but I recall it was only about -5 degrees Celsius, about 23 degrees Fahrenheit. So nothing crazy. That is very crazy for us. Just side note.
I'm sorry, side note. You know that's when he's like, it's not bad. It was only 23. That's terrible.
But it does get dark by about 6 p.m. I actually prefer this. There are fewer people out, and I like to go around dusk when wildlife are more active. At the time, we had Winston, a 90-plus pound rescued husky shepherd cross. He may have looked intimidating, but he was the sweetest boy and gave off some real Eeyore vibes. We lost him to cancer just over a year later, but I was grateful to have him with me this day. I was heading back to my vehicle after walking him at one of my favorite natural areas when I noticed an older, dark blue Ford F-150 truck pulled off to the side of the road. As I walked past, I saw that the driver was an older guy, maybe mid-50s, with shaggy gray hair, and honestly, a slightly creepy vibe. He wasn't in one of the 2 designated parking lots, instead just stopped there on the side of the road. I thought that was kind of weird, but he cruised off eventually, heading to the back parking area. I chastised myself for being judgmental and made it to my SUV in the first parking lot where no one else was parked. As I was driving out, I noticed a moose in the direction the truck had gone, so I headed her way to get some pictures from my vehicle. The truck reappeared, driving slowly by me. I felt another prickle of unease, but he continued past, driving toward the exit. I got my photos and was heading out about 5 minutes later when I realized that the same truck was now somehow behind me. It felt like he had maybe pulled into the first lot and waited for me, but that would be crazy, right? Again, I shook off any uncertainty and continued on. When you leave this natural area, you have the choice to go right, which eventually takes you back into the city I live in, or left, where a few small acreages are scattered until the road dead ends. I like to drive slowly on the road out. It's along the river and there's often wildlife. So instead of making my usual right, I went left, thinking that the truck would take the normal way out and wouldn't be stuck behind me. Then I could turn around and take my time on the way home. But he followed me left. Full goosebumps now, but I was still trying to justify it, telling myself that maybe he lives down that way. I decided to pull off into a little turnaround area bordered by trees so he could go by me. Instead, he pulled up beside me, fully blocking me in with his truck. Panic mode was fully engaged now. I was trapped. It's a pretty remote area. It was almost fully dark, and no one else was on the road. Every murder podcast I've ever listened to was playing in my head. I was calculating how far the nearest house was, wondering what I should do, looking for my phone, wishing Winston wasn't now confined to the back of my SUV. And then I saw the man reaching over to roll down his passenger window. Yes, his truck was that old. I don't know if it was out of ingrained politeness or the hope that maybe he wasn't actually going to murder me, but I put my window down too. He immediately looked unsure of himself and just said, "Oh, you're not the one in the gray hoodie. Sorry, I'm sorry." I was wearing a beigey grayish coat. As he was talking, his truck had kind of rolled back, so I took advantage, pulling quickly around him and making my way back onto the main road that would take me home. I think I waved at him again. Again, that weird need to be polite, even to potential murderers. But I admit I drove pretty quickly and checked the rearview mirror often, and maybe my heart was racing a lot. I have no idea what his actual intent was, or who the girl in the gray hoodie might have been, but this was an extremely scary experience, even though nothing had physically happened to me. I also feel I made a lot of mistakes. I did report it to the police, both because it was so upsetting and because I heard from a friend that she had seen a very similar truck lurking around the same natural area the day before. The officer took me seriously, promising to increase patrols in the area to hopefully track him down and have a conversation. I never heard if they found him, and it took me a while to go back. Even now, 3 years later, I feel uneasy at times while there. The biggest thing I took away is to trust your instincts and to fuck politeness. Look out for yourself. Also, never take a dead-end road.
Oof. Well, Tanya, don't feel bad. I mean, you should be allowed to take a dead-end road if you want to go see a moose or something down there. That's what really, if I may sound like the older person I am becoming as I sit by the park and just look at birds, like it gets my goat to think that we can't go and do certain things for fear of being lurked about. Like, just act right, man in the truck.
Yeah, it sounds like he didn't have the best intentions for either someone in a gray hoodie, or once he realized maybe he got a look at Tanya and said, "Oh, this isn't going to be as easy as I thought," made up some excuse, but you got out of there. It is that weird ingrained politeness, especially in women, that and I think it's honestly not politeness as much as self-preservation, because we think, well, if we are, quote, a bitch to this person, then that's going to anger them more and I'm going to be in even more danger. So instead, I'll just be deferential and polite, which can also get you in trouble. But I think you nailed it when you said, trust your gut. If something feels weird, listen to your gut. There's a reason it feels weird. And even if you're in the middle of a situation and you're like, I got to get out of this. This feels weird. But you're like, but I've already started this conversation. It would be rude. Fuck it. Fuck politeness. You're never going to see this man again, hopefully. So get out of there. You don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah, if you like, for me, I always joke that WWCWD, like, what would Christy Wallace do? Or if you just need someone to tell you, feel free to just envision our voices and go, nah, I'm done, and just bail. Just be like, I'm going to go now. And if they say why, I don't have to tell you anything. I don't actually have to say or prove anything. But you're right, saying whatever the intentions were, saying you're not the one in the gray hoodie. I don't like the depersonalization of a woman. You know, which one? There's just a bunch of women out there. Go grab one. That's a human person who happens to be wearing a coat versus a hoodie. But there's no need to just get your fucking car out of my way, sir. But you're right, to your point, that that's a reaction that we have of self-preservation. It wasn't until I was in training at Legal Aid for basically trying to understand trauma responses of people who've been in violent situations, and that it's not just fight or flight, or even fight, flight, or freeze, but also appease. That is a coping mechanism of like, I'm so sorry, let me help you. And it explains why sometimes, myself included, we find ourselves in a situation where it becomes heated or angry, and your response is like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, why am I being nice to this abusive or violent person? But it's just something that gets ingrained in us, unfortunately.
And I think a lot of times it can be life-saving. So don't beat yourself up about doing something like that, because you're here to write this in. So you obviously did everything right.
Sinisterhood. We'll be right back.
Well, this next one is from Everin, and it is called Secret Government Testing in My Neighborhood. And a content warning, there's some brief references to gun violence and violence against children in this one. Hi, Sinisterhood gals, pals, and pets. I just listened to your latest Freaky Friday where a listener described their possibly UFO, possibly clandestine government testing experience, and was reminded of an event from my own childhood. When I was a kid, I lived for over a decade out in the suburbs with my dad. And I'm sure you ladies know that when you say suburbs in the Southwest, it often means a sprawling but cozy development way out in the middle of the desert. Every drive from home and back, we would pass the massive airplane boneyard of 1987's Can't Buy Me Love fame, which was also attached to a large and well-known Air Force base. One night near the end of the school year, when I was 12 and only a couple weeks away from turning 13, I awoke in the middle of the night to the entire house shaking violently. It was so loud, I could hear every single object around me making noise, including my bed hitting the wall with every shake, and my window making a sound like a piece of laminate paper being whipped back and forth. Even the air itself felt like it was vibrating. Of course, anyone's first thought in hearing this might be that it was an earthquake. But earthquakes, especially those big enough to be that intense, are extremely rare in the area. Furthermore, now that I live in the Pacific Northwest, I know what an earthquake feels like, and that wasn't it. It wasn't the ground that was moving and destabilizing everything around me. It was the air. It couldn't have been a freak weather pattern either. It was May in the desert, and the night sky was clear. It lasted for at least 10 seconds, maybe longer, seeing as I'd woken up in the middle of it. Once it had stopped, I went downstairs to see if anyone was awake, and not seeing anyone, decided just to go back to sleep, wondering if I'd somehow imagined the whole thing. I asked my dad about it the next morning, and it turned out not only had he felt the whole thing, but he'd actually been outside talking to our equally bewildered neighbors when I'd come downstairs, hence why I hadn't seen him. I asked him if it was an earthquake, and he said he'd checked online and there hadn't been any recorded seismic activity. I've later gone back to double-check this, and it's true. There's no recorded seismic activity in the area around this time. Definitely not anything that could have been strong enough to shake the entire house. He said it might be some sort of government testing, which I'd already started considering at that point, and wasn't surprised to hear from him, since he's always been rather anti-big government. Even at that age, I was already feeling fairly disillusioned as well. The last 2 years had been a whirlwind of citywide trauma. In 2011, there was the Safeway mass shooting, which Gabby Giffords only narrowly survived. It was the first mass shooting I had ever really taken notice of. and the years that followed it ended up feeling like the beginning of one long nightmare. A year later, a 6-year-old girl was kidnapped from her bedroom at night, and the entire city exploded into fear and paranoia, much of it ending up pointed at the parents, even though it would later turn out it really had just been some stranger who'd taken her. Amid all of this growing mistrust in authority and the world around me, the idea that they were testing something questionable over at the Air Force Base seemed more than plausible. Curious, I resolved to ask my friend who lived on base with her family — her dad was in the Air Force — if she'd seen or heard anything that night. She said there hadn't been any shaking, but in the middle of the night, all the sirens and alarms had started going off around the base, and someone dressed in uniform came to the door asking to speak to her dad. They stepped outside to talk. She wasn't able to hear much of what they were saying, but the official story she was given was that there'd been some sort of security breach. It's worth noting that in the years since, there's been other reports coming out of southern Arizona of mysterious violent shaking and even loud sonic booms, the latter of which is often blamed directly on the Air Force Base by the people who've experienced it. I've heard plenty about our government doing covert testing with sonic weapons, both in terms of using sound to disable and disorient people like with the LRAD, and also trying to harness some sort of concussive force. During the incident, the only noise I could remember hearing was the sound of everything shaking, and as far as I know, nobody experienced any ill health effects. It's possible it even could have been some sort of aircraft flying by at extreme supersonic speeds, somehow creating enough acoustic force to violently shake everything within our neighborhood. Maybe I just didn't hear the boom because I wasn't awake for it. Thank you for all you ladies do and the care and entertainment you bring to this community you've created for all of us. Wishing you an easy time going into the holidays. It can be a hard time of year for everyone, and can't wait to hear even more from you. Everin, they, them.
Well, Everin also included some links and to some news articles about it, as well as a post on a message board, and someone dubbed them the Tucson Booms, which is a great name for it because the video of it that the news article had, it's just this huge boom sound with this reverberation vibration. Is it the hum? Is it the sky trumpets?
Tucson Booms sounds like a local softball team or a local improv team. Either one, it could go either way.
It's both. It's the improv team, and then they also signed up for like league sports.
Yeah. They also do kickball, like league kickball. So they're serious about it.
But the Tucson Booms, I mean, you're not alone. I mean, you know that because you sent these links to us. But if anybody listening is in Tucson and has experienced these, or if you work for the government, we will preserve your anonymity. You can tell us what it is.
We will shred any documents you send us.
Yes, we will immediately delete the email. But it's cool that their friend was able to say, hey, my dad had, there was something on base going on that it's like, we didn't make this up. We all heard it.
Security breach sounds like a very vague description. A lot of things could be under security breach.
Something got in or something got out.
Something flew over the airspace, perhaps. Whatever it was, living that close to a place that can make these noises on a regular basis, I would be knocking on that government steel door in the middle. Like, how dare you fly this over our house in the middle of the night? We're all trying to sleep.
It's like people live out here,
right?
But you think about like, what, man, I would never want to live by a government testing facility or this, but a lot of times the people are there first. The government comes in and puts this stuff. Or a buddy of mine in college, her dad worked at a facility like this. And so, you have to live in proximity to where they work, whether that, and my family lives in Oak Ridge in Tennessee, and they had a nuclear facility. So it's so eerie though, that you're just dead asleep and it's not coming from below.
No, the whole house shaking, that's a feeling that I don't want to experience. It sounds as if something large was flying over, something creating a lot of like acoustic disturbance.
Yeah, in either the flying over or hovering, and in order to, I would hope that if it was weapons testing, it would not do it on unsuspecting citizens just vibing. But I don't put a lot of stuff past our government, so maybe they were,
or it got out of hand. I don't know.
Right. You're not supposed to take it for a spin. It's like, yeah, it's no big deal. It's like, it's in the news, man. People heard. Like, oh,
It's
man.
a really big deal. People live around
loud.
here.
Yeah. It's fucking loud and people live around here. Well, Everin, let us know if you hear any more of those booms, and anybody else listening, if you've heard the Tucson boom.
If you've seen the Tucson Boom at the Improv,
Yeah.
let us know what one-word suggestion you shouted out for their show.
If you're the team that played against them and they beat you, you can write us in as well. Well, this next one is from Savannah, and the subject line is parent on parent prank in Disneyland. In your best Shania Twain impression, let's go, girls. You asked for parent prank stories, so I am delivering. A little background. My younger brother Ryan has autism and is nonverbal with a limited vocabulary and has high needs. He's unable to live independently on his own or live a life society would deem as, quote, typical. Despite that, he is so very smart and has his own sense of humor. My brother has participated in at-home ABA therapy since he was 3, basically as long as I can remember, for over a decade. ABA is applied behavioral analysis therapy based on the science of learning and behaving. It can help increase a person's language, communication skills, improve attention, focus, social skills, memory, and decrease behavioral problems. While there's no controversy with the idea of ABA therapy, it was monumental for my brother and family. Since the therapy and tutoring sessions were conducted at home about 6 days a week, we always had people over at our house. Oftentimes, the people who worked with my brother became more like family than anything. Okay, now story time. When I was 6 and Ryan was 5, my family was going on a family trip to Disneyland. It wasn't often that we went on full family trips, with my dad being a pilot, leaving my mom to be a part-time single mom, and my brother's needs. It would often be more challenging than average to plan family vacations. On this trip, one of Ryan's best ABA tutors, Kush, was going to come with my family on the trip. This way, we would have an extra set of eyes and 3 adults to rotate between Ryan and Savannah shifts and give the third a break if needed. Ryan loved Kush and always got along and respected his authority. They were like 2 peas in a pod. He was truly like a big brother to both of us, being about 18 at the time. One of the rides we wanted to go on all together was Big Thunder Mountain. You know, the train roller coaster riding around the mountain at a high speed where the only thing keeping you in your bench seat is a pull-down bar. That one. While we were waiting in our special entrance, thanks to the front-of-the-line disability passes, my mom was growing concerned that my brother would be flown out of the cart after the cart whipped around a fast corner. Mind you, my brother has always been much bigger than me in all aspects, and my mother had zero concern for the actual tiny child here who was tall enough to ride the ride, but I digress. We load into our train car. Kush is in the front row, my mother and I in the second row, and my dad and Ryan in the third row of the car. We were off. The speed felt like the speed of light for my 6-year-old self. Then we took such a sharp turn so fast that the inertia slid us all into our seats to the side. Without missing a beat, my dad yells from the back row, "Ryan fell out!" My mother screamed as she snapped her whole body back to see my brother sitting there giggling, and my dad with his shit disturber grin on his face. My mother reached back and started slapping my dad, yelling, "You stupid son of a bitch!" She then turned back in her seat to resume her enjoyment of the rest of the ride to find Kush sitting in the front row, holding up his digital camera, filming the whole ride selfie style. We all laughed for the rest of the quick ride. After we got off, my mother punished my dad by putting him on Ryan duty for the next few hours. It was only a punishment because we all quickly learned that my brother's favorite ride was the visually stimulating and musically intoxicating Small World. Ryan loved it so much, he learned fast how to get to the ride line. Blessed with the front-of-the-line disability pass, my brother was able to ride that ride non-stop. It even got to the point where the ride ushers no longer required my dad and him to deboard the ride just to get back in it. They would just wave them on for the next round. My dad and brother would end up riding Small World for over an hour before my dad finally said that was enough. It's still one of the funniest and favorite memories that's burned into my brain. I think about it often. Unfortunately, Kush passed away a little over 5 years ago before it was his time to go. But it's memories like these that keep him close to my heart. I will leave you with this. Kush was the person who was able to teach my brother how to say, "I love you," and how to answer the question, "Who do you love?" with Mom. It was because of Kush that my mom got to hear her son tell her that he loves her. Sorry I don't have a video of the ride. Even if you don't read it on air, I hope you found my chaotic family fun. Keep it creepy, Savannah.
Oh, Savannah. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is one of my faves. That is one of the rides that I remember going on over and over my very first time to Disney World, also with my dad. I love that your family found this funny. I think it's great when families have this type of sense of humor. If Tommy pulled this, we'd be getting divorce papers served at the Magical
Diamond
Kingdom.
fell out.
The happiest place on earth would quickly turn to not the happiest place.
That's where our family split apart, was on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. That is such a, I mean, that honestly, this seems like something my dad would do. He liked to do like short, it wasn't like, hey, Heather, go hide. I'm going to tell your mom you're kidnapped. But like a short, when we were at the fair, pretending like he got electrocuted by something, but for like 2 seconds and then immediately be like, I'm just kidding. Mm-hmm. So just being like, he fell out. I'm just kidding. But if it's your kid, that's not really the same. It's like, oh, I might have gotten shocked by this. That's Savannah's dad's taking it further.
She took it in stride. So good for you, Mom, because those bars only do so much,
I will say I was on the Tower of Terror at Disney World in Orlando as a kid, and I distinctly remember, I think they've added seatbelts, but I distinctly remember being about third grade and flying. I mean, I could feel the bar on my knees, which meant I flew up so far out of the bar that it was like touching my knees rather than my hips. And my dad turned horrified and yanking me down. Like, oh my God.
Weren't we recently speaking with someone about the regulations of theme parks?
Spoiler alert. Let's go to court.
That's what it was. Yes. And, while Disney World and stuff have more regulations, I'm just going to go ahead and say, don't go on carnival rides, especially if they're, the ones that are just set up in a parking lot somewhere. As fun as that whirl-a-twirl might look, when you get whirled across the interstate, it's not going to be fun anymore. And there's not a lot of regulations for who's putting those things together, and a lot of checks and balances.
No, the whirl-a-twirl will hurl you, and then you'll also hurl. Because I went on the state fair with my niece. The kids Tilt-a-whirl.
And I think whirl-a-twirl is something I just made up.
I like it.
Tilt-a-whirl is the one I was looking for.
But I went on even the kids one, and it was very squeaky, too squeaky for my preference, but also just my body was not meant to be done that way. And of course, my niece is 6. She had a hoot. She was having a great time. And my sister was like, hey, Aunt Heather, you loving it? I was like, yeah, this is aunt duty, is to throw your back out. But the thing about a carnival ride, like you're saying, though, you don't have to say, oh my gosh, Ryan fell out, because you might actually. You never know. But I do love, Savannah, your parents choosing. It's like your punishment. It's not that you have to hang out with Ryan. It's that you have to ride Small World 57 times in a row.
Man, that song. I bet your dad still has flashbacks when that it's a small world. It is a great ride.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe once, twice.
It's chill.
But an hour's worth, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. And that's a lot unless you're the one that's wanting to ride it for an hour.
Ryan,
in which case it's a dream. It was his dream come true. But yeah, oh man, what a good time. Well, thank you, Savannah. We love your chaotic family fun.
Oh, for sure. I love hearing stories like this, and what a great memory and way to honor Kush too. People that can do therapy like that and really connect with children and help them. That is a special gift. And I'm so glad that he got to be a part of your family, and y'all got to be a part of his while he was here.
It's one of those, every time Ryan says, I love you, you know why. And that's
right.
always going to be part of them.
Oh man, what a beautiful gift to give any mom. That's incredible.
Sinisterhood. We'll be right back. Well, this next one's from Emma, and the subject line is, did y'all say hello? Hello to my 2 favorite Texan ladies. You both brighten my day and give me the creeps regularly, and I love you for that. Here's the thing. I love your Freaky Friday episodes and was listening to the latest one, episode 86 at this time. I was cleaning my house alone with no other noise or distraction in the background. Just the two lovely voices of my besties, Christy and Heather. I live in a very quiet neighborhood. I had my windows closed, doors closed, and it was just me and my two fur babies at home. Leo, my orange tabby, and Jasper, my little black Chihuahua mix, who I refer to as my familiar since we're so connected in every way. I think he was my son in a previous life. Anyway, I was wiping down the counters and listening to you tell the story of Heather's grandpa having top secret military clearance when I heard the most distinctive woman's voice come from the hallway say, "Hello?" I paused, thinking it was maybe you two, but I rewound a few seconds back to the listener tale and I didn't hear it again. This sounded like she was feet from me and was so clear I looked around the house to make sure I was alone. My husband works midday, so I'm alone from 12 to 10:30 p.m. I get a lot of cleaning and podcasts in during this time. I looked down the hall and answered, "Hello?" Nothing. I've always had unexplained auditory experiences, and I'm curious if anyone else in the Sinisterhood coven does as well. I hear my name being called constantly by my sister or mother, but neither live with me. In fact, we live 2.5 hours away from each other. This has happened for as long as I can remember. It happens anywhere I go, and I try to debunk it every time because the older I get, the more skeptical I become. It's really no fun. Most often, I hear my mom call for me in her aggressive whisper, "Emmy," my nickname. Do you think there's people trying to connect with me on the other side? My family thinks so. The voice I heard today that called out, "Hello?" didn't sound like my sister or mom, so I lit some incense, it's all I have now, and opened a window and kindly asked any spirit or energy to leave. Dead, alive, or somewhere in between, I like to think kindness will get you what you asked for. Maybe I missed it when I rewound the episode, but did either of you say hello into the mic at any point? Or someone around you? I feel like I may be losing my marbles, or maybe it's just the voices in my head again, as I lovingly call the voices that call my name. I have a few other stories I can send in as well, like the red-headed ghost my sister and I saw and spoke with on a family trip to Lake Roosevelt, or the time I saw a man in a 3-piece suit while camping at Westport while walking to the bathroom alone, or my baby brother seeing a black shadow child glitching in the curtain when he woke up one morning. Let me know if any of these are of interest to you. I hope you know how special you two are to the listeners of the show. You keep me company as a stay-at-home dog mom after I lost my job in an unforeseen merger at a hospital I work for. I was a social worker in inpatient rehab, and it was the best job I've ever had. Thanks for the time, love, and effort you put into the show. If you ever want a guest who loves creepy shit like you do, you know where to email me. I'm starting a podcast of my own, so check out Morbid State of Mind if you ever get the chance in your busy schedule. So much love from your sinister sister in Washington, Emma.
Well, Emma, I hate to break it to you, but neither of us said hello during this, and we record by ourselves independently in our own studios. So no physical person was in the room with either of us to say it. If there was someone else that said it around us and we didn't hear it and it got picked up, perhaps, but it was not one of us.
Can you imagine if Tommy was editing and he just DM'd us and was like, "Hey, sorry," someone was like, "Hello," into the microphone. Which one of you was that? And we're like, "Well, neither." And there's footage, there's video footage. Because every episode, right? I mean, y'all don't see us because maybe someday you'll see us. But for now, the video footage we have is just for us personally. We can go back and look. And if we saw that there was nobody in the room and he just was like, "I don't know, it's just a voice on there," I'll lose it. I'll lose it.
Yeah, that's when we just put up a Sinisterhood will be right back image on socials indefinitely.
Yeah. We need to take a elongated break. Well, my reading this yesterday, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to, prepare for the show, read the stories in advance, getting ready to read Emma's story. I don't know if it was in my mind or what, but it was late at night last night. And by late at night, I mean about like 1:15, 2 in the morning when I was going to sleep after working. And I was on Reddit. And this happened to somebody on Reddit. It wasn't exactly the hello while the podcast, but they said that they were in their bedroom and home alone. And they heard their mom say their name from the living room. But then when they came around, the house was empty. And they said, then people in the thing were like, "Oh my gosh, this happens. This happens." There were two trains of thought. Because it's Reddit, take it with a grain of salt. Was
one of them, a demon has entered your home, get out now?
bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, that
She
Reddit's
won
great for that.
the grand prize. The second one was an interesting thought that, and I won't say inclined to believe it, but this is more in line, I think, of what might be happening. There have been times, and I was shopping at the Winco, which is my new favorite grocery store, had my headphones in, just listening to Bo Burnham on full blast. And I was thinking about you, Christy, specifically. I don't remember what it was, but I was not thinking about you. I was shopping or whatever. And you popped in my head and I thought, Christy, huh? And I thought about you. And then I kept shopping and I swear it was like beat, beat, beat. Zzz, my phone buzzed and you text me and you're like, oh, me and Ella are sitting here, and you text me in pictures of her drawing. And it's just weird. And there have been times where I've just thought, oh, my mom. And then 2 minutes later, my mom calls me or texts me or something. So I wonder if when you're hearing Emma, when you're hearing your mom's voice, she's talking about you or thinking about you off somewhere. And it's just because especially, I mean, I think you and we're all constantly together or talking or always on the same wavelength, but especially with a mom-child relationship, or you're
sister.
made out of the same shit. Yeah, you're made out of the same stuff. There's got to be some, if twins have it on a super duper level, I think relatives might have it on like a lighter level. I can't prove that, but it stands to reason.
It happens to me. I'll think that my phone buzzed and then I'll look at it and it hadn't. And then few seconds later it will, and it will be like my mom calling. And Tommy will even said, you probably like felt it was about to happen, like almost anticipated it. There's things up all around us all the time we can't see. We don't know what's going on. And there's all sorts of colors and sound waves and all sorts of things that I'm not even smart enough to know what's around me that I can't see. Yeah. But it could be that, somebody's talking about you. Somebody needs to talk to you. Communicating from the other side seems less likely to me because it's a voice you already know. If it was a voice you didn't recognize, then I would think, okay, but since it's voices it seems more like an energy thing. Or if it's happening to all sorts of people everywhere, the logical part of my brain is like, maybe it's some kind of auditory thing where, you just what is it when you feel like your phone buzzes because you're always used to it being in your pocket, and then it's like you get a phantom buzz but it's not really there. You're just kind of used to it. Whatever that is, but with your ears is what I'm getting at. Yeah,
that's a good point. If it was a different demonic voice, I'd be worried. The people on Reddit were like, demons can mimic a person voice, which is, whether you believe in demons or not, here's the thing. If I'm in my bedroom and somebody is yelling at me from the living room, I'm going to check the cameras. And if there ain't nothing there, that doesn't sound like my problem, does it?
You open a window and you light some incense and you say, bye-bye.
Like that. And hey, Emma, I would agree. And so would our resident paranormal experts, the Ghost Guild, taught us that too. Regardless, dead or alive, a soul is a soul, and kindness is always the best idea. So if you hear them hollering from the kitchen, be like, hey, I can't come out there right now, but if you don't mind, just skedaddling. I'd like to go back to bed.
Help yourself to whatever's in the fridge. And shut the door on the way out, please.
Thank you very much. Well, if anybody listening has had similar auditory experiences like this, somebody calling your name or saying hello, or if you're like Heather and Christy are full of shit, they absolutely said hello last week. I know it. I heard it myself. Help us not gaslight Emma. So call us. Yeah. Call us. I'm always like, give us a call.
Give us a call. 1-800-SINISTER. Now, I will say that when my dad passed away, my mom kept hearing at night, and it would wake her up often, the sound of a doorbell ringing. And it happened like multiple nights in a row. And she finally Googled it, and something said, when you hear a doorbell, it's someone from the other side trying to communicate with you. And so when you hear it, just say like, hello, or, their name. And so it happened again. And she said my dad's name, and she said she heard him say like, I'm okay. Tell the kids that everything's okay. And then it didn't happen anymore.
Wow.
So maybe next, I mean, you are obviously replying back to them, but instead of just a hello, maybe a question of who is this, or what can I help you with? I don't know. I'm also, if that's inviting something into your home,
Yes.
I'm not a qualified person to speak on that. So maybe ask Reddit.
Yeah,
there's a
your mileage may
there's a
vary.
whole subreddit called Ask Reddit.
You know what? You can't ask Reddit, but why ask Reddit when you can ask Susan? Taylor and Morgan from Creeps and Crimes introduced us to her, their medium, Susan. They love her. She's been awesome to us, and awesome to our listeners who have called her. So that's just a good just call an expert. Susan probably knows. Just
absolutely.
Ask Susan.
We can post her information in the show notes.
Yes. Thank you. Well, thanks, Emma. And like I said, I hope you're not alone out there, and someone else will write in with something they've heard too. Sinisterhood. We'll be right back.
Well, our guest today is Jonathan Perez, best known for the viral TikTok account Latinos Against Spooky Shit. Heather, you first discovered him, and then you sent him to me, and I was like, this is so funny. And then you reached out on TikTok, and the rest was history.
The rest is history. If you haven't seen his videos, people will tag Jonathan in scary videos. He will do a react to them and then give some very funny off-the-cuff advice. You'll hear all about it in this interview. But he just is so generous with his time and with his stories with us, and his videos are hilarious. They've racked up millions of views, millions of likes, millions of followers across Instagram and TikTok. He's also a streamer. He does some D&D streams as well. We'll talk about that. But he tells a Freaky Friday story of his own, and we talk a little bit about our history and our experience with creepy stuff and how we all got into it. So please enjoy Latinos Against Spooky Shit. And remember, if you heard it, no, you didn't. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Freaky Fridays guest interviews. And we are so excited this week to have one of our absolute favorite TikTokers. You know him, you love him. We have Jonathan, representative of Latinos Against Spooky Shit.
Hola, buenas tardes, or I guess hola, buenos dias. It's morning still.
Oh, that's one of my favorite things to hear in my TikTok feed is hola, buenas tardes. I love it.
It's comforting. It's soothing. But also, you're about to get some fun, spooky reactions and stuff.
Right.
some creepy shit is about to go down. For those of you listening who are not on TikTok or Instagram, not aware, Latinos Against Spooky Shit is a viral TikTok account where it starts with something scary, and then we have Jonathan reacting in the corner and then popping in to give us a wonderful mix of real and possibly just sort of cultural advice that comes from your own personal background and experience.
Yeah, it's a little satirical, but I think everything, satire or otherwise, always comes from stems from a place of truth in some way, shape, or form. So I do definitely draw on a lot of my roots.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like comedy, the paranormal, cultural commentary. It's a little bit of everything. It's
a very weird Venn diagram, but it works.
How did you get started with all of it?
Just total accident. What was it, like 2 or 3 years ago now at this point in time, I posted a video of my voice in Spanish and English. And I never realized the difference. Like, this is my voice in English, deep, baritone. But in Español, es un poquito más alto. It's a little bit higher. And I never noticed it. And so it was a reactionary video to that. 10,000 views or 10,000 followers overnight. And I was like, oh, wow, maybe I'm a voice guy. Tried doing voice stuff, didn't land. And then I posted an egg video where I flipped an egg in a pan. That went viral, like 6 million views. I'm like, fuck, am I an egg guy? Is that what I'm going to do now?
Guy.
Shit. But thankfully, that went away really quickly. But Nate Petrosky, I believe is his name, saw one of his videos, and he lives out in the woods and he lives off the grid. Super nice guy, super sweet. But he's like, I heard a strange noise outside and I went to investigate, and immediately all the red flags, like everything that I've been taught in my life just went off. And I decided to react to it. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was Representative Latinos Against Spooky Shit. I don't know why. It just sounded good. And the rest is kind of history, as they say.
Oh, that video is awesome. You just reposted it. Thank you for doing that, because you said now y'all don't have to scroll all the way back through my feed.
Yeah, because I realized it's been like, I think I have 150 plus videos at this point in time now, which is insane to me. Well, when I think about it, that's like 3 years worth, once a week at least. But yeah, I reposted it, and it's interesting to see where I was to where I am now.
Right?
Definitely. How it evolved.
I love that it just spontaneously came out of your mouth too, because we both have improv backgrounds, and the off the cuff, like jokes are usually the ones that are the funniest because you weren't thinking about it. It was just natural and relatable.
Yeah, and that's the majority of my content, actually. So a lot of people, I've done a few other shows, and people are like, "What's your writing process like?" And I'm like, "My what?" Like, excuse me. I watch a video twice. I think it's funny, and then I just start recording, and whatever comes out of my mouth, that's the first take you guys get.
I love it. Oh yeah, so it's unedited and pretty unfiltered too. So
very unfiltered.
Yeah.
And I think it's just my own ego. I don't like retelling the same jokes.
Yeah.
Right.
So if I have to write it down, I'm like, oh, that feels gross. Like,
right. It doesn't feel as natural. Yeah. Little
but
cans.
Full respect for like writers and people who do that. Like it is an art form, and I could not compete. Like, yeah,
right.
It's hard.
We struggle with that. Our touring show is like scripted, but we do love to improvise so much that we just have to give ourselves space in the touring show to be like, so we're not exhausted. We have these jokes that are written, but we have to it's just natural, right? Is that kind of your comedy preference? What's some early comedy that you remember like growing up with that kind of inspires your style?
The funniest person in my life is my mom. Yeah. I love my mom so much, and I got my sarcasm from my dad, but my timing and my comedic effect is all my mom. My mom is very slapstick. She's very pun, and so I got a lot of that from her. And then as far as growing up, I mean, I grew up, which is going to sound weird, Richard Pryor. Yeah. I grew up with Eddie Murphy. I grew up watching, of course, George Lopez. So many of these different people and different styles. And the one thing that I grew up with the most out of anything, though, that I think inspired improv, Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, yeah.
So Whose Line was elite to me. And I was like, God, these people just coming up with that off the cuff was great. And growing up in school, like I was the class clown. I was the funny guy. And so, it's a skill set that I've honed over 30 years.
You were born for this is what you're saying.
I like to think so.
Yeah, for sure.
You found that niche. Absolutely. And so when you posted that first video, now you have over 1 million followers across TikTok and Instagram and, all these millions of views, and you get tons of comments on everything. Yeah. How has kind of the reaction been? Because I noticed you even made a video recently, a couple weeks ago, about responding to a comment because your stuff is in Spanish and English, which I think we're both very comfortable with because we live in Texas, and it's Dallas, it's very normal. Everything's bilingual. We know the different words for everything because it's on top is in English, bottom is Spanish, or depending on what neighborhood you're in, it's flipped. So, which is fair. But so it didn't dawn on me like, oh, this isn't correct. I was like, oh, how pleasant. This is how I'm normal. I'm used to hearing people talk. But I noticed in the comments after you posted that video, so many people, not just from the Latino community, but from various other cultures going, this is actually how I think and speak. This is how my brain works. It's so pleasant to hear you speak like that. I feel like and you say in your video, you belong. How important has it been for you to see kind of that reaction and then reminding other folks like you belong?
The whole principle of my TikTok, at first it was, I want to be funny and I want an outlet. And then it quickly evolved to, okay, I now have a platform. What can I do with it? That means more than just me. And that was the first thing that I really had to sit and think about. And for me, it was connecting to our roots. And I think that's such an important thing that a lot of us, whether you're Latino, Latine, Latinx, whatever you want to identify as, or whether some people who don't have that heritage grew up in that type of neighborhood, that's still important as well. Like folks who grew up in Texas. Yeah, sure. You might come from a predominantly Anglo-Saxon background, but you grew up in that culture one way or another. And I think it's important to us, to really recognize that. And so many times I grew up with kids who like, unfortunately didn't know Spanish because their parents didn't teach them, and watching them be treated as lesser than by even their own family because of that when it was outside of their control, even though they look as Hispanic, as Mexican, as Latino, as anybody else. I was like, no, that's not right. You can't just try to hide somebody's identity and cultural background because they don't speak the language. So I think that video really stemmed from that. Because me, myself, born in Mexico, but I left when I was like 4 years old. So I live in this very interesting limbo of, like I said in that video, too Mexican for Americans, but I'm too American for most Mexicans. And trying to find that fine line has always been interesting, and having to become comfortable with myself and knowing, so I was, okay, I am Mexican. I'm not Mexican American because I wasn't born in America. I am Mexican. And there's no way around that. And I'm sorry to anybody that's upset by it, but like, it is what it is. And so letting other people know that, hey, you're not struggling with this by yourself. It is something that I believe the majority of us have gone through. And just at least knowing that they're seen is important.
Oh, I love that. And I love hearing that once you discovered you had a platform, your first thought was, how can I make this for everybody and not just me? Like, how can I do it for good? Because Heather and I have really, over the years, as our platform has grown, have thought the same thing. Like, there's a million true crime podcasts. Like, what sets us apart? And it's, we always want to have a call to action at the end if we can.
Yeah.
But true, yeah, that's what we like to do, is figuring out like what can we do, like you said, where it's not just like it's the Heather and Christy show and it's all about our ego. It's more like, thank you for coming. We do have egos. That's why we're performers, right? Just like any of us are performers. We're like
a slut for attention, okay?
Yeah, because we're like, watch me. And then when people are watching you, there is a responsibility to go, okay, well, I have your attention. I need your help with something. And for you, I like that concept of, I think it was someone in your comments of like, I'm more like you said, you're not enough. You're not Mexican enough for your Mexican community, or not American enough. But it's like, not that's not true. You are more than just you are so much more. Yeah. And I love that comment and it's not just you interacting with your fans, but it's like a community, because someone said, oh, I'm from India and I speak Hindi. And someone's like, oh my gosh, my family. And there's all these comment trees of people belonging.
Yeah, it's multicultural, because language, I mean, obviously, depending on the region and the area you're from, but the experience of being made felt lesser because you don't have, deep ties to your root, can be experienced across all the cultures. And so it was very refreshing, and it was very heartwarming, I'll even say, to see so many people, like you said, from different backgrounds, creeds, ethnicities, and being like, oh shit, this really connects with me. And thank you for that, So, yeah. It's an interesting little soapbox to get on, but I'm more than happy to do it.
One of the things I think we're proudest of is the community that has sprung up around our show, and even without us, that exist without our help, but connections that have been made from listeners. And with our Freaky Friday stories, so many times we get messages that are like, oh, I just heard Jonathan's story and it reminded me that I went through the same thing. And so people are connecting, and they'll even like go on Reddit and try and connect with each other. And it is very heartwarming to know that what started off as just something fun that we all like to do, we've been blessed enough to like have it evolve into something bigger than us that can help others.
100%. And community was the key word, I think, there, because it's so easy to be a one-hit wonder. And it's like, oh, I made a funny video and people liked it, and then you fade into obscurity for the rest of forever.
You get that one viral hit, and then it's done.
You flip your egg and you're done.
Imagine, God, what a big disappointment that would have been. But like, no, there's people that like I follow. Or used to follow, that I'm like, okay, they've got one or two good videos. I'm excited to see what they do. And then they don't do anything else with it because they kind of just try to repeat that formula. And don't get me wrong, formulas work, but to an extent. And then it's sad to see that, because it's like, God, I'm curious as to what else they could have done, how much bigger it could have gotten beyond just themselves. And so it's weird to be here in this spot with, like you said, like 1 million followers across platforms.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's wild to me. And I try to do good by them, good by the community all the time.
I think you do.
That's why we wanted you on the show, for sure. Because it's like, it was not just a funny viral video that you swiped past. It was, you're bringing in the satire, you're bringing the culture, and then that comment section. I was like, oh, I felt it was something special. Christy felt it was something special. And then to see like, oh yes, all your viewers are here, not just because we all love spooky shit, which we were about to get to. We know No, that's like the unifier amongst all of us, as we know we love spooky shit. But to see you being able to like have us, it's Latinos against spooky shit es para todos. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Right. Like,
Hey, you heard it here
us,
first, folks. That's my next shirt.
Hey, there you go.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
It is. Wow.
Well, speaking of spooky shit,
Yeah.
we hear you have a spooky story for us today.
I do. I have a couple different ones, so I really had to sit down and figure out which one I wanted to tell. But I'm going to go with the first ever spooky experience that I had.
Love it.
Which takes us back to little effect back to Seattle, circa 2002. So I was about 7 or 8 years old at this point in time, and I don't remember who was driving. In as you guys know, Latino Mexican families, they're related to me some fucking how, I don't know. So they're driving. My aunt's in the front with them, and in the back seat. And we're in a truck, mind you. So in the back seat, it's me and this person's daughter. And of course, we've got the back bench lifted up, and we're just playing on the floor because circa 2000. And we're just playing. And in Seattle, if you've never been, there's certain areas that have got the railroad tracks, and so bumper to bumper traffic, railroad tracks are coming up. Me and this girl are playing, and then all of a sudden, we get to the railroad tracks, and the guardrails come down, signifying that a train's coming. We're stuck on the tracks. We look down the track, and sure enough, train barreling down our way. And what I can only assume would be moments before impact, me and this girl snap out of it, and we're back about 50 feet away from the railroad tracks. What? So she and I are panicking. We're freaking out. We're screaming. And we're telling my aunt and her mom, like, don't go on the railroad tracks. We're going to get stuck. And they're like, what are you talking about? We're not even close to the railroad track. We're like, don't get on the railroad tracks. We're going to get stuck. And we make enough of a fuss because according to them, we went from just like giggling, laughing, and playing to just crying and bawling our eyes out.
Oh.
Wow.
So 0 to 100 really quick. Right before we get to the railroad tracks, they pull off. And sure enough, guardrails come down. Nobody got stuck on the tracks. Rails come down. Train comes barreling through a couple minutes later, or a couple seconds later, really. So apparently there had been a malfunction in the system because the railroad tracks are supposed to let you know like 3 miles ahead of time when a train's coming around the corner.
Oh.
This one failed to notify until it was like right at it. And we don't know how we had this premonition. We don't know if it was a premonition. It was very Final Destination-ish.
Yeah.
But that was the first spooky experience that I can remember having.
Did you talk about it with the girl? Like y'all agreed and discussed it amongst yourselves?
No, it was literally, we both started panicking about the train. According to my aunt and her mom, like we were just giggling, playing. I can't remember if we had toys or whatever. And then all of a sudden we both just started crying about the train. Like
in unison.
In unison.
Yeah.
There was no prior, hey, did you see that? No, I mean, we're 8. We're going to, it's all reactionary. And so we just both started screaming about the train. And that's the only reason they listened to us was because we both just 0 to 100 so quickly that they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, seriously, because
No.
if we cover stuff recently, we've been covering stuff about UFOs and like the aerial school event where it's like 60 students who saw, some sort of extraterrestrial.
Wild, yeah.
And that wild one. But like the point that psychologist made was like, kids like aren't that great of actors. Like if it's that like gut check, like, oh my God, this thing just happened.
Yeah.
Like they're just blurting out the truth. They're not like calculated enough that young
Right.
to be like, well, we think also y'all weren't gaining anything from, it's not like, oh, turn us around back to the candy store. The train might hit us.
No, we were on our way to a family gathering of some sort, I believe, if I can remember. So like we wanted to go where we were going. So it's not like we were, making a fuss. We were fine. Yeah, no, we weren't good enough actors. Like if I was 14, fine. I'm a little shithead. Sure.
Yeah.
But so that was the first big scary thing that I can remember happening. But it was so surreal because I mean, having grown up in Seattle, I've seen trains, my whole life there. And envisioning a train coming at you, barreling at you at that age.
It's one of my worst nightmares, honestly. Just yesterday I was driving over and they started to come down on me.
Oh.
And I was like, this isn't supposed to happen. And they had just gone up. So my husband was in the car. He's like, they're not supposed to come down that fast. But The
That's what I'm
idea of
telling you,
not
yeah.
being able to get out of the way of something literally barreling towards you has always, the train tracks have always terrified me.
I will say, here's what bugs me about that, though. Not in your circumstance specifically, but in general, when people are like, "Oh, I'm stuck on the train track." Get the fuck out of your car.
Yeah. You got to get out. It's not worth it. Never.
I don't understand. Like these people that are like, "Oh, they got stuck in their car." I'm like, was their seatbelt stuck? Like, no, they just tried to drive away and couldn't. I'm like, I feel like this could have been fixed.
Right.
No car's worth it.
No,
it was a choice.
No, abandon your Toyota Corolla. It's not worth it. I mean, if you're truly stuck, I feel you. But always choose life over property anytime if you can. Sure. But that did your family? But like, I mean, clearly they stopped the car. But in the retelling of it, were they like believing, or were they kind of like, "Oh, Jonathan, he's haha"?
No,
no, they saw something.
Yeah, it was one of those things where they're like, "How did you guys know?" And it was like, "I don't know how the fuck we know." We're like, we don't know. We just we saw it. And like, what do you mean you saw it? We're like, 8 articulation wasn't really. We saw it, and they're like, we have no idea. And of course, having grown up religious, which of course nothing wrong with those that have their own faith, everybody's like, "Oh, it was a premonition of God, or it was angelic." And I was like, I don't know, dude. All I know was there was a train. I almost shit myself, and we're fine.
And I saved my family's life.
Yeah, I don't know the details. All I know is we're here.
And we're here, and we're back.
Has that ever happened again?
That type of premonition has never happened again. Other spooky things have happened, which if you guys want to know more, I'm always happy to share.
Please. Yeah.
Sinisterhood. We'll be right back.
I've had weird little instances, but the other one, and this one's hard to describe because it has to do with geographical location. Bear with me. Montana. Going to a friend's house. Now, to get to this friend's house, I had to drive around a lake, right? So it's about 45 minutes to an hour almost to get over to them. So drive around the lake, get to their house, hang out, blah, blah, blah. It's late at night, so I'm leaving. As you leave their house and get to the end of the street, I can either take a left to go around west of the lake, or I can take a right to go around the east. Only 2 options. But in this instance, I noticed that it's a 4-way intersection, and I'm like, "Oh, this cuts down the middle. Oh, I wonder if they have like a new little, subdivision or something that I can go through and save myself some time." So I'm like, I can probably take it. I'm going to go forward for a little bit because it doesn't say no outlet or anything. So drive forward. I'm going and I'm driving and I'm 15, 20 minutes. And I'm like, God, I haven't seen a single house or anything on this entire road. This is weird. 25, 30 minutes. And I'm like, I should have hit highway by now, or I should have hit a turnoff at this point in time. I was like, this is all river, or this is all lake. Like I should be in the middle of a lake. This is weird. So I'm driving north at this point. I keep driving. Mind you, I don't have my cell phone because it's dead because I was at a fucking house all night. So I'm driving. And then finally I'm like, okay, I need to find a turnoff. In Montana, there's a lot of state parks, and every state park is named. Deer State Park, whatever bullshit state park. I pull up and there's a turnoff and it just says state park, like the most generic green state park sign.
Mm-hmm.
But I pull up in there, it drives up a little bit. Park, at state parks, they've got the little, what do you call them? Bulletin boards.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's got one of those, absolutely nothing on it, which is unsettling if you've been to state parks before and you're like, these have shit all over them all the time.
What you're describing is a version of Silent Hill that hasn't yet been made.
I was going to say, it's like the back room.
This is beta Silent Hill.
Yes.
Yeah, it's outdoor.
And so I park, I get out, and there's I'm up a few feet. So like there's an outlook, an overlook. So I go to look, and where I live, I lived in Kalispell at the time. So if I look north, you can see Big Mountain. Biggest fucking mountain there. You can't miss it.
Properly named.
Properly named. And you can see the lights on it for the ski resort. No mountain. I see nothing. And I'm at this point in time, I don't know if you've ever felt like you're being watched, but that feeling hit me. And that drop in my gut. And I'm like, okay, don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I get back in my car. I drive back down. And now I have 2 choices. I can go left, keep going north, and hope that I hit the road at some point, or I'm just going to double back. I lost 30 minutes of my life and I could hit the road so that I could. So I turned right. I'm like, I'm going back. I'm going to go back the way I went. I don't have my phone on me. This is a horrible idea. If I get lost, I'm screwed. Haven't seen a house. No. 5 minutes it takes me to get back to the intersection.
Oh. Like a time warp.
And then I'm like, okay, left or right, it's about the same distance no matter which way I go. So I'm just going to choose one. Choose left, get back home. No problem. A couple weeks later, go back to my buddy's house. I'm not thinking about it until I get to his house. And I'm like, oh, hey, dude, by the way, quick question for you. He's like, yeah, what's up? I was like, do they build a new like intersection or like, are they building new houses down that way? He's like, what are you talking about? It's like at the bottom of the hill when you get, out of your house, the street. He's like, that's still only a two-way. I was like, what? So later that night, as I'm leaving, I drive back down there, and sure enough, left or right, I don't have any option to go forward. So
you drove on a road that disappeared.
Another realm.
No, yeah, I don't know how to this day. I don't understand what happened, how it happened, or how to explain it. None of my friends ever saw the road or experienced the road. I don't know how to explain. And it's so at that point in Montana, I'd been living there for like 10 years. So you get to know geographically the place very well. Like I said, Big Mountain is always north. Like if I've ever turned around, I know I can look north. There's that big bitch right over there. But being on a road, not being able to see anything because it's all wooded, and then getting to an overlook and then seeing no mountain range around you when you've been surrounded by nothing but over the last decade is extremely unsettling.
You were in the Montana's back rooms is what it sounds like.
I don't know what fucking room I slipped into or what Doctor Strange bullshit happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember being like, you know what? Out of sight, out of mind. Not my problem.
What do you say? If you heard it, no, you didn't.
If you heard it, no, you didn't. If you drove it, no, you didn't.
Nope. You're like you said, I will turn back around. It's gas.
Yeah,
That's okay, at least I'm alive.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where, like, again, very few times in my life have I felt that like empty in the pit of my stomach. But that was one of those fight or flight moments that was so primal that I was like, I could not drive north if I wanted to. I could not even continue. It was just all flee. It was all flight.
Wow.
Yeah, you're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, your body was our brain was like, get the fuck out. He's not supposed
something
to be
was
here.
wrong. The state park was the first red flag. Because first of all, I hate state parks. I'm built for comfort, not for hiking.
Also, there's a lot of missing 411 and everything has showed us just how scary state parks can be and how many people go missing there for unexplained reasons.
At the end of a weird road at night with no labels on anything, and it looks like it's been set up as a lure trap to lure in.
God, there was no like mile per hour signs. There was nothing. Like the most bare bone road you could imagine.
It was like the template for something that was going to be built later. Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
That is very creepy.
Hard pass.
Hard pass. Well, that's how I feel about a lot of the videos that you react to is like even the very first one where he's like just the wilderness and you hear things and you're like, I'm going to get closer. And you're like, nah, I'm not. And I think that's why your videos are so relatable because we're all like, nope.
In the South too, we're like, that's on you if you went out there. Like,
don't go in the woods.
No, don't go in the woods. And I feel like the South and the Appalachian area as well, they're just very well versed in like, don't fuck around. Like,
fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
That's what we like to say.
I'm not trying to find out.
Don't look into the tree line. Yeah, just little things. It feels like common sense.
You should, but it's
what
not
are you going to see in the tree line? You don't know, and that's the point.
I don't fucking know. I don't care. Yeah.
Floating.
My problem.
I'm not going to find out. I don't know. I don't look there.
No, we moved.
Lurking in the tree line, it's horrible. And if it's floating next to the tree line, also probably horrible.
Yeah, nothing comes from looking at a tree line at night.
Yeah, true. Yes.
You're going to see glowing eyes. Maybe it's the Flatwoods monster, a cryptid, a ghost, or somebody just living in a tree. And I'm not trying to rustle them late at night. I'm like,
a fucking mountain lion, which that's not any fucking better.
No, arguably worse.
I was going to say.
Absolutely the worst thing. Have there been any videos that you got tagged in that you're like, oh, I'm afraid, but also I can't explain this? Because some of them it might be, a rocking chair and they push it before the thing starts, or a weird doll or something. But or a friend dressed up. But have there ever been any that you're like, oh, that's fucked up and I can't explain it?
There's been a handful of ones where it's way too long to shorten for context and repost. There's one where it's like, oh shit, I have to watch like a 4-minute video to like get the entire context of this. I cannot because I never want to steal other people's content.
Mhm.
You know, I was like 30, 40 seconds max is what I'll show of their stuff. And then I'll credit them. And if you want to watch the rest of it, you can. But when it's that much lore to build up to like a moment, I'm like, fuck, that's way too long.
Yeah.
And some of them are genuinely terrifying. And of course, TikTok, I love you. Thank you so much for paying my bills, but fuck you, because you'll only show me these videos at 3 a.m. when I'm trying to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's when they pop up the
too.
most, and I'm like, of course, naturally, I love that. The algorithm hates me, so yeah. Some of those, I'm just like, I don't even know what to do with this. And I'll watch them a couple times too, and I'm like, I know what I want to say about it. But at the same time, I'm like, this is so fucking horrifying that I don't know how to make it funny.
Right.
Like sometimes it's so bad, it's just not funny. Like,
yeah, it's like too scary.
Yeah. This one isn't going to be funny, guys. We need to come together because
we really need to stop our shit. Yeah, we need to act right. But
like, I actually am against this spooky shit. Like seriously.
Yeah, one of these days I'm gonna post like a series. Like, no jokes aside, y'all are fucking around. You need to stop. Like, you know,
I'm here to intervene.
This is an intervention.
Please stop.
So it's wild, and you know, obviously pulling the curtain back a little bit, because I get called out in some of my videos, and it's annoying, but it's funny because a lot of people are like, how could you even believe this is real? And I'm like, how can you believe that I believe this is real?
You're like, it's there.
Like, some of them are so obviously fake.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make fun of it because it's imagine if it wasn't, though. You know, because some of the shit does happen. Yeah. So, no, it's just because I get pulled into a couple. Like, one of them was, it was so cute. It was, I caught a ghost on camera, and the camera's slowly panning. And then it pans over to a Labrador with a white sheet on him with his little snout out. And I was like, that's adorable.
Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, I love stuff like that. Well, talking of imagination, I've noticed too, you kind of incorporate some D&D lingo type of thing in some of your videos where you're like, oh, you need to use this. The Fabuloso will help you with this. The Chancla will help you with this, you know, different kind of powers. How fun has it have been for you to kind of integrate? Because you have a D&D stream as well that you do. I
do. I've got a couple D&D, or TTRPG games that I play, and actually tonight is another one. Shameless self plug every Thursday.
Okay.
What's
the game that you play?
It's a Call of Cthulhu based game.
Oh, nice.
So it's based in the H.P. Lovecraftian world.
Yeah, very cool.
Using a different system, but yeah, we're playing some teenagers in a carnival that's haunted.
Oh,
for us, absolutely terrifying.
That's why, or like Five Nights at Freddy's and all of that. I'm like, I don't like. Yeah, carnival shit gets me.
Never played Five Nights, but my community has been like, you should, and I'm like, fuck, of course, yeah, you guys want.
I've never played it, but I've seen the trailer for the movie, and I'm like, what? Of course, I'm going to see it because I love scary movies, but it looks genuinely terrifying.
Animatronics are horrifying. Like the Chuck E. Cheese doll with his bloodshot eyes.
Yes,
horrific.
They look like they're just going to come at you at any moment.
I think they are. I think that's what they do.
Absolutely. And a horror story that we grew up with, and I'm not sure if this was just local to the town that I lived in Mexico or what, but part of the reason why I don't like animatronics or dolls was one of those stories that just gets told. But somebody in my family told us a story about why they don't like Smurfs. But long story short, some family bought their daughter a Smurf doll, and the daughter kept complaining, like, the Smurf doll's talking to me. They're like, whatever, kids being kids. And one day, daughter goes missing from her room, and they're like, where is she? What's going on? Nobody broke in. And it started smelling bad. And they cut open the Smurf doll and found her inside.
This is like a urban legend of where you're from.
I do not know if this is one of those folktale, like legend type things, or if this is a true crime story that happened type thing. Whoa. I just remember that this is something that got perpetuated so much in my family.
That became a legend in your family, or
and again, I haven't even bothered Googling it. So get the comments, figure it out.
Don't worry, I've already clocked it in my brain, and as soon as we get off, I will be Googling that.
Smurf girl question? Yeah, you want that on your Google history.
Because Smurfs is so recent. That's disturbing that it's recent. You know,
exactly.
I guess from the 70s.
70s, 80s. Recent enough for it to be an issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
The size is what I was picturing, this big, but to baby.
It was like a Smurf, a 3 foot tall Smurf.
So a child size Smurf.
So it ate her is what the myth
allegedly.
Is. Yeah. Smurf ate the child.
My aunt could also just not like Smurfs. So
That's like very much an aunt thing to say. I'd be like, Auntie, why don't you like Smurfs? Be like, that Smurf ate that baby. And you're like, what? And you're like, Smurfs eat kids. And you're like, what are you saying? I'm 7. You should.
Like, I said what I said. The Smurf ate the kid. Don't play with
thinking about it. That sounds like a hate crime to hate the Smurfs for no good reason.
Yeah,
it sounds wrong.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, what the fuck did they do to you?
Gosh,
Anyway.
which one? Was it Papa?
Yeah.
Was
I
it?
can't remember.
What was the girl's name?
It wasn't Smurfette.
Smurfette.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't her for sure. It was one of the other. It was the dopey one.
Oh.
Of course it was the dopey one.
Man,
but
framed.
D&D, TTRPGs
Anyway,
and stuff.
D&D.
Yeah, it's been really fun being able to incorporate my personal hobbies into my content, because I'm a huge gamer. I'm a nerd. Like, obviously Dungeons and Dragons, TTRPGs, tabletop games. I stream. So any stuff like that, like, I'm super into. And finally I was like, I want to blend the two. I have to blend the two to be a little bit more true to myself. And being able to do that has been incredible amounts of fun, finding out how, again, that Venn diagram shares that space. So
That's
yeah, I've been able to do that. It's been great.
It's awesome. It's like a
The
little
dream
signal.
is, finding what you love to do and getting paid to do it is
Honestly.
the dream. So we're all living that dream.
It's
We are.
so wild.
Yeah, it is.
Be grateful every day, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's next for you you got Latinos Against Spooky Shit, you got your streams. Is that just building the empire, bringing more people under the fold to tell them they all belong and it's para todos?
I don't know. I'm not a good planner. I like to improvise, as we all know.
Hear you?
So I don't know what's next. I always wanted to entertain. That's one of the things I do know for sure from a very young age. If I could get a laugh, then I know that I'm doing good. Now, is that generational trauma saying that, hey, if I can make people happy, that innately makes me a good person? I don't know.
Every comedian's origin story.
My soul. Hello.
Truly. But it feels like an even exchange. It's like, I demand attention, but I have to earn it. Here's a laugh.
Oh, yeah,
Can I get
right.
my attention?
It's a exchange
Equal
of
exchange.
currency.
Yes. So I've always known I wanted to do that. And years ago, truly 12 years ago, I had tried to start my career by being a streamer. It didn't pan out. It didn't work out for X, Y, and Z reason. Things happened. But in my heart and soul, I always knew, okay, I want to connect with people in this way. And I just don't know how to do it. And so 3 years ago, all this happens and I'm like, shit, okay, I can do it. I do have that option. And I'm just kind of taking it one day at a time and figuring out what's next. I've been extremely lucky to be part of podcasts like this and shows, and I am in the works of potentially even having my own podcast. I don't know.
Awesome.
Kind of all up in the air.
Exciting.
I think that's kind of the neat thing about our space as creators. I don't like content creators. I like influencers. It makes me feel gross, but creators is a cool one. We aren't limited by media in the sense of, if you're a TV actor, that's all you're going to be known for. Or if you're, a movie star, that's all you're going to be known for. Like, we can really do a lot of things a lot of other people can't do because we're so fluid in that way. So I'm excited to see what's next. I don't have anything solid other than continuing to work with my friends, and telling stories through tabletop games, continuing to play video games online and connecting directly with my community. If I ever get a chance to be on a show, hey, I will do it. Movie, absolutely. Fully
Me
support.
too, for anyone listening.
Yeah, we're available. All three of us are available.
All three of us. We could even do a pseudo Scooby Doo thing.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll be Scooby. I'll be like, Ro, we're not doing this. Come on now. But
I'll
no,
get
there's.
the van.
You'll get the van. Love that. No, I'm excited for all the options.
That's
And of course,
awesome.
huge SAG-AFTRA supporter and WAG supporter. So,
Yeah,
I stand
same.
with everybody in solidarity. Hopefully by the time that this comes out, y'all get your shit figured out, as far as the executives fucking coming to the table. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited for life. I'm excited for what's next. I don't know what's next. Every day is a refresh of my email and be like, let's see what's happening. And
that's
who's reaching
exciting
out.
though, that you never, and that's exciting in our industry too. Like you said, we're able to like pivot a lot to other areas. So you never know what kind of email you're going to get where you're like, I never thought I'd be involved with this, but this sounds cool. Sure, let's give it a shot.
I never expected you guys to reach out. A friend of mine has actually listened to one of your episodes and has you saved on their Spotify. So I told them today was, it's going to be Sinisterhood. And they're like, the Sinisterhood? I was like, what do you mean the Sinisterhood? Like, you know them? And they're like, yeah.
Is it episode 13 they have saved? If I had to bet, I would bet it's episode 13.
I'll have to ask them.
Okay.
Do you think it's 13? Okay.
It's our first.
It's our first one, but also it's a pretty infamous one because of a story that I tell, which is my legacy. It is all I'll be known for. It's no matter how much I create, all I'm going to be known for is what happened on this episode.
You can turn it off and listen to it and just experience it for yourself, because we don't want to rob you of the surprise.
No, after this, I'm going to go listen to it.
We don't want to rob you of that.
Depending on
you're
the
like,
content,
she seemed so nice on the interview, and then I heard a very different side of her.
You're going to try to text me, and your number's going to be blocked right after I finish.
I'd be like, oh, that's weird. It's not going through.
Went straight to green, huh?
It went straight to green. Absolutely. Well, I love that you want to surrender to the ceaseless unfolding of life, because that's what we have to do. That Rick Rubin says, if you don't know the next thing to do, just do the next thing as best as you can, and you're doing it. So we appreciate that.
The only consistency I've ever known is inconsistency.
There you go. I love it. That could be on a shirt as well for you.
Also,
that's a bumper sticker.
That's a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
Oh, we had so much fun talking with you today. Thank you so much. For everyone following you online, where can they follow you?
You can find me Latinos Against Spooky Shit on all my platforms except Twitter, where it's Against Spooky because my name's too long and it doesn't fit there. Yeah, the stamp character limits. But you can catch me on my Discord. That's the best way to keep up to date with what's happening. I post my schedules, I post programs and events and all that kind of stuff. And Instagram. So those are going to be the big ones where you're going to find all the announcements. But thank you guys so much for this platform
for
and this
joining
moment.
us.
No, absolutely. I love doing these, and you are an absolute charm and a treat. Despite I believe that's a Ouija board Sinisterhood behind you, plus the candles.
Oh yes, that was made by Heather's brother-in-law who does wood burning.
That looks so good. It
is really good.
I've been looking at it this whole time. I'm like, what does that look familiar? What does that give me the creeps?
It's awesome.
Right there, it is. Okay,
that was one of our first fan gifts. Was from Aaron.
I love that.
It was so nice. Yes,
my brother-in-law.
Shout out to you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Oh, Aaron's
great. High Proof Designs. Thank you. But thank you. Will you take us out with your famous catchphrase? Because we just love it, and I would love to have it recorded on our air for posterity.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Don't forget, if you heard it, no, you didn't. Dios los bendiga, and best of luck.
Yay. Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for your time spent with us. And thank you to everybody else for sending in your Freaky Friday stories. If you have an odd but true story, maybe you've encountered Bigfoot, you've seen a UFO, you had a brush with true crime, or you felt the presence of an otherworldly being, send them in at sinisterhood.com/Freaky Friday. If you like our free episodes, you'll love our Patreon bonus content. You can join for free to see what we're up to next, or dive into over 500 hours of bonus content. We just uploaded a live show video for all patrons, including free ones, that on our Patreon. So you can go there and just join for free, and then you can watch that. We have some other things for people at that level. And then also you get notifications anytime we do post stuff. So if something strikes your fancy and you're like, I'd like to listen to that, then you can just upgrade your tier at any time.
Yeah, that's our, we love the join for free, because I know I've seen a lot of people go, well, what's even the point? It's a way for you to be a part of the community. Even if, you can't financially contribute right now, that's fine too. We still want to find ways to send stuff to y'all and keep in touch. So it's pretty easy. You just hop on over there, pop in your email, and then you'll hear from us, especially as we get closer to next year, once we start to go on tour again, because we do pre-sales on Patreon. That's where you're going to hear about it first. And then you'll get all the information on how to get the pre-sale code and all that good stuff. So yeah, go to patreon.com/Sinisterhood. You can also head to Sinisterhood.com and click shop on the Chop banner to check out our Sinisterhood merch. We got t-shirts, mugs, totes, stickers, clothes for your kids. Pretty much, if you have someone in your life that needs a gift, why not get it at the Sinisterhood shop? It's holiday time. Don't go out to stores. They're terrible. You can order it on the internet and it'll be at your house in 2 seconds, and you don't even have to worry about
leave.
it. You don't have to leave. But if you also head to our TikTok shop, there are some sales going on over there as well. So keep an eye out on our TikTok shop, or you can head to our website and click shop on the top banner.
While you're there, you can also review the show, follow us on socials, and check out the episode description. You'll also find fun things like topic-based playlists and links to live show tickets.
You can follow us on Instagram, X, and Threads at Sinisterhood Pod. You can like us on Facebook at Sinisterhood. Check out the full video version of our interview with Latinos Against Spooky Shit on our YouTube channel, and follow us on TikTok. Another great idea for a holiday gift is a Cameo. If you're not familiar with that, it is a custom personalized video shout out from Christy and I. It is a great thing to get the person who already has everything. It's nothing tangible, physical. It's just an exciting feeling. I've gotten Christy a Cameo from Fiona the Hippo.
One of the best days of my life.
You got me a Cameo from Zach Guilford. One of the best days of my life. It really does make you feel special and excited, and it's always such a fun, unexpected thing. So we would love to do those for you. So if you're hearing this like moments before a holiday or something, and you're like, oh God, I got to do it. We also have 24-hour delivery. You just have to, toggle that you need that, and let us know what you want us to say. But we would love to spread a little holiday cheer for you on Cameo. So go to cameo.com and search for Sinisterhood. Where are you at online, Christy?
Well, before I answer that, one of the most fun things of Cameo is that you can be there when the person watches it and see their reaction, which is very fun. I legitimately burst into tears when Fiona came on the screen. It was, we have video of it because
we'll post that on our free Patreon too. I think we posted it before.
We should. It was during a virtual baby shower for Simon that you threw for me. And it was so unexpected, and literally like 50 people are watching me just sob because Fiona is eating cabbage, and the handlers are telling me like, congratulations. But then the one for Zach Guilford, we played that at your birthday show that it happened to be in Houston. We were doing a live show. And so getting to see like the recipient's reaction is a gift in and of itself. So it's a fun thing.
Perez might have filmed that too. So maybe we can do a little quick, our Cameo reveals of each other, and we'll put that on, blast that out to our Patreon for free, because both of it is just us just being surprised and shocked. And you saw very hard because it's Fiona. Why wouldn't you?
I was also 8 months pregnant, so the hormones were raging. But even if I wasn't, Fiona will bring me to tears.
Well, where are you at online?
I am on Instagram at Christy M. Wallace and TikTok at Christy or GTFO. Heather?
I'm online at Heather versus the World.
As always, the devil rules the airwaves.
Keep it creepy.
Sinisterhood.